And a pledge of allegiance. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I could, I'd like to ask everybody to remember two former Dayton educators in their prayers tonight, Mr. Stan Steidel and Mr. Sam Cantrell, who both passed this week. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your honoring of those fine educators. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I'd like to open up the podium for anybody from the audience who would like to approach council. State your name and address, please.
Kathy Gordon, 314 North Avenue. Something that has been of curiosity to me, and I don't know if it can be answered this evening, but just, again, a matter of curiosity. I commend the city for being able to access significant amounts of grant money. But as we all know, grants aren't free money, it's tax money. But more importantly, what was mentioned was the overall amount of what we've gotten in grants over the last, I believe, 16, 18 months, something like that. But nowhere did anybody tell us what portion of those grants we get to pay. Because usually grants are, as I understand it, require some level of contribution or matching funds or something of that nature from the city. So how does one budget for that if you don't know if you're going to get a grant? Are those monies budgeted, or where does that come from?
Sure. So for Riverfront Commons, there were 3 different phases, 3 different grants. The first grant required no direct money to be matched by the city. What we were able to do was use in-kind contribution of the land as the match. So we actually didn't, dollar for dollar, didn't have to give any money for the first phase that just completed. The second phase, which we're under design right now, will owe 20% of the match amount, and the same for phase 3.
20% of what?
So 20% of $850,000 for phase 2, and 20% of $1 million on phase 3.
Okay.
For the sidewalk kind of improvement grant that we have, which is going to do sidewalk bump outs on 2 blocks on the avenue and connect Chateau Drive with 7th Avenue, is 20% as well. That's 20% of what, about like 350,000?
Yeah, about that.
Those are the major ones we have right now.
And are those items budgeted prior to actually acquiring the grants, or
Yeah,
does it come out of economic
so before we
development?
applied for the grants, we decided where that money would come from, and we had, at the time, had indicated we have the money in the bank to do that, so yes.
To be a little bit on the sarcastic side,
Sure.
for which I apologize, kind of. I know where the sidewalk is going up the hill. One of these days, I'm going to try to walk up that hill, and I'd like the fire department to be on hand, because I'm not sure that I can do it. I can't imagine that sidewalk being used very much. I really can't. And there's a part of me that has to at least go, I can look at about $30,000 worth of projects that certainly have not been addressed over time for the existing communities, and that are either maintenance or whatever, pavement or whatever the case may be. So there's a part of me that's going, okay, I appreciate and value the fact that we're trying to make improvements, but it literally is, the question is, at what cost?
Yeah, here's the thing about the sidewalk. It probably won't get as much use as a lot of other areas, but we have kids that walk up Dayton Pike and down Dayton Pike all the time, and adults as well, and it's very dangerous.
I don't question that aspect of it, but there is a part of me that really wonders how
It's a safety
per
issue.
use cost there is, and I realize that that's not something that's easily ascertainable, but.
Yeah, it's a safety issue, a lot of it is. I mean, you know, you see people and the kids going up and down there, and cars sometimes swerving to miss them and that kind of thing. It's just a big safety issue. Matter of fact, part of the sidewalk grant is a Safe Schools grant, right?
Correct.
It's in conjunction with Dayton High School, so.
And one of the reasons why we were able to get that funding is because that's one of the few areas of town that isn't connected via sidewalk. So it'll actually, when it's all said and done, will actually extend beyond Chateau, because Fort Thomas is also working on a grant. So eventually, those sidewalks will connect into Fort Thomas, and I wouldn't be the first one to get up there and walk up the hill, but if you start
Oh,
thinking
you're
about,
coming with me.
well, if you start thinking about where technology is going in terms of motorized scooters and things, it makes it much more feasible that someone doesn't even need to walk up. They can maybe sometime in the near future just moped it up in some form of rental, bike rental. Red Bike's already doing motorized bicycles, so might not even have to walk at all.
Hence, why the sidewalk?
Well, in that case, it would be off the street in a more protected
I
manner.
appreciate it, I guess because I'm very fiscally conservative. I get concerned about a city this size having major projects of epic proportions financially, and making sure that we're being financially responsible and accountable for what we take out of our budget for some of these projects. So I'm just,
And it's still,
Playing watchdog, I
we
guess.
still look at it on a year-to-year basis. So the $1 million in grant funding that we got for phase 3, Riverfront Commons, that's not even gonna be available to us till 2022. So as things change, we look at it every year, and it's not something that we really wanna back out of, but it's not something that we're totally 100% committed to if something were to come up. But I can understand where you're coming from on that. We look at it every year to determine if that money is still there before we move forward with the project.
but thank you, I appreciate the input, because I hear of these hundreds of thousands of dollars of projects, and I'm going, wait a minute. I don't have that in my hip pocket.
20% match is usually the rule of thumb for a lot of these alternatives.
Because 20% of $800,000 ain't chump change.
Nope.
So,
It's not.
thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Anyone else? Yeah. Name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Becky Shanks, 819 Fifth Avenue, here in Dayton, Kentucky. I just have a little bit of a personal concern, and it might not be a concern to everyone else. So I know it might just be me, or it might just be a personal thing. But this past month, I saw an advertisement for the haunted house, a sign that was planted in at the monument. And before now, the monument was sort of like a sacred place. We didn't put signs there. We didn't put yard sale signs. We didn't put advertisements there, because it's sort of it's sort of like it's a memorial to all the war heroes and to the people who gave their lives and things like that. And I did contact someone about that and found out that the person who put the sign there had gone through the channels and had called the city building and got permission to put it there. So this was a big disappointment to me personally, that they were given permission to put.
Also, Becky, in follow-up to that, the sign was moved by kids or somebody vandalizing and actually physically put it on the monument. That's not where it was originally supposed to be.
Okay.
So when she went up to check on it, that's what, I mean, it was off the stake and everything.
Well,
so.
then it was replaced with a new sign.
I thought she took it totally down.
She may have, but then it was replaced with a new sign in the same spot. So that's why, that's why I came. And I'm just concerned with the elections coming up in 2020, that it's going to be bombarded with political signs, and I just don't want that happening. It's just, and it might just be me. And if it is just me, that's fine, and I will put up with it, and I will just go on my merry way and just kind of avoid that area going home, because it just really upsets me. And if it is just me, then that's the way it is. But I just kind of wanted to bring it to your attention, and maybe we can avoid it. So,
You know, I understand why the sign was put there, because it's a great location to direct people to the event, you know, that was happening. But maybe that's something we need to consider in the future. I do agree with your assessment that it, you know, it's kind of a sacred place, and, you know, we certainly don't want along Camp King signs and all kinds of other signs cropping up there, so maybe we can just consider for future reference, maybe not to use that area. I don't know, that would be a recommendation, I guess.
I mean, the area behind it, you know, and the,
Sure.
what's considered the park or unpark or whatever we're considering that now, you know, behind it or anything like that, but it's just that just kinda, I don't know, that just had special meaning to my father and to, I know there are people here that have, their family name is on the monument itself, and have, you know, and it just, the representation just means a lot to me. So I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing your concerns to the council, that's important.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to approach council? Tom? Anybody other than Tom like to approach council? All right, moving along. To the mayor's report, last month I mentioned that we'll start to begin to give some council member liaisons to the boards with their meetings. I've been thinking about moving people into, to make sure that certain council members are always attending the meetings that we're having. I've got some ideas. I'm not going to share them with the public yet because I want to share them with the council first. But I just wanted to let you know we're going to continue to move on with that because it gives the city a good idea of what's going on for the boards, and it gives the boards a good idea of what's going on in the city. So I'll reach out to each council member in the next month or so, and then bring that back to the public in December or so. Wanted to make sure that everybody understands that the trash schedule has somewhat changed for the city of Dayton. And so please check the city website for updated trash schedules to make sure that you are having your trash picked up. They've done a decent job of taking care of it since our initial concerns. And I also want to let everybody know that due to Thanksgiving, the Thursday will be pushed to Friday and Friday will be pushed to Saturday. Nobody will be fined for any type of overnight trash. If everyone's celebrating Thanksgiving, that's all we care about. The big sign outside the fire department has been removed. The reason we removed that was due to outdated software that was no longer being updated. So we had to take that sign off. We'll be donating that to the museum, and looking forward to finding a new sign in the future, but we haven't settled on one yet, but that wasn't able to update anymore, so it made no more sense to continue to put that up. And that's all I have for my mayor's report. Now the next piece is the fun piece. We do a proclamation. Jeff and Mary Ann, if you could please.
Yes, want me up there?
Oh yeah, come on up, man. Not every day we get to do this. I'll come around to you guys. So one of the greatest things that we have in Dayton is Hansman's Corner Deli. They've been in operation this year is October, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
For 40 years.
Woo.
Yeah, that's impressive. 40 years of serving up the community, making sure that we have good fresh food, great service, and even the things that we don't think we need. You could fix the world at Hansman's. If you need electrical tape, they probably have it. Just it's probably on sale too. So they've been a wonderful member to our community, making sure that we have what we need. And so I wanted to take today, and the whole city wants to take today to proclaim. I'll read this, try not to be too long-winded. But whereas in October 1979, Jeff and Mary Ann Hansman opened a small market and deli at 727 6th Avenue in Dayton, Kentucky. And whereas for over 40 years, Hansman Corner Market and Deli, formerly known as Maristop, has been a mainstay in the community, providing essential groceries, a variety of household items, and a full-fledged deli counter complete with meats, cheeses, salads. And whereas Hansman's Corner Market and Deli has been a staple of Dayton with their friendly and attentive staff, serving not only those in the community, but visitors regularly coming through and out of our marinas. And whereas Jeff and Mary Hansman have been consummate owners, always keeping Hansman's Corner Market and Deli as a clean and well-kept business. And whereas Hansman Corner Market and Deli has been an active community partner, supporting a variety of events in our city and our schools. And whereas the city of Dayton and citizens are appreciative of Hansman's Corner Market and Deli for 40 years of business in the community, countless employment opportunities provided to our residents, and for keeping our donuts alive and well.
That's true. Thank you.
So we named today Hansman's Corner Market and Deli Day.
Thank you.
And alongside, I'd also like to present the key to the city to Hansman's Deli and to your family for continuing to serve our families for many, many years.
Okay.
Long may you serve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Got pictures?
Told you it'd be fun.
You don't have to stay. You're gonna have a good, sometimes they're long.
I'd like to move along to the approval of the minutes from the October 1st council meeting.
So,
Moved by Volter and seconded by Mr. Lynn. Any comments? All in favor? The ayes have it. Move along to the second reading of 2019, number 18, amending 2019, number 17, as it relates to the imposition of personal tangible property taxes.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance number 2019, number 18. This ordinance amends ordinance 2019, number 17, as it relates to the imposition of personal tangible property taxes for the city of Dayton from .74 cents to .719 cents on each $100 of assessed value of personal property, other than motor vehicle and motorboats, and that is the second reading.
Second reading's been made. Do I have a motion to accept 2019, number 18?
Motion to accept 2019, number 18.
Member Volter made the motion,
Second.
seconded by Member Lynn. Do I have any comments? Roll call, please, Donna.
Yes. Member Burns?
Aye.
Member Lynn?
Aye.
Member Volter?
Aye.
Member Neary?
Aye.
Member Baszler?
Aye.
Member Cornett?
Aye.
The ayes have it unanimously. Now, for the first reading, we have 2019, number 19, which is the closing and abandoning of a .08 acre of unimproved portion of Silver Street.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance number 2019, number 19. This ordinance closes and abandons the unimproved portion of Silver Street and returns the property to the adjacent property owner, the City of Dayton, in accordance with Kentucky Revised Statute. First reading.
First reading's been made. Move along to the administrator's report, Mr. Giffen.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one handicap parking request, 135 Fifth Avenue. The applicant meets all the requirements as set forth by ordinance. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Cornett's made the motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Burns. Do you have any comments concerning? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Ayes have it.
Next, I've got in my report I sent to you all last week, explaining a proposal we have for a potential business. The Economic Development Committee met with staff and a new owner of a piece of property last month. And amongst the staff and amongst the committee, we discussed an opportunity that we felt was a good one for the community. But in order to move forward with that, the Planning and Zoning Board will need to look at a potential text amendment to our zoning ordinance, in which case they will bring back a recommendation to you all for final approval and discussion. So to kick that off, I'd like to ask for a motion to have the Planning and Zoning Board review a potential text amendment change to our zoning ordinance.
So move to allow planning and zoning to recommend a text change to our ordinances.
I'll second that. All right. Tammy can have it.
Member Volter made the motion, Member Cornett made the second. Any comments?
It's kind of vague. What are the text amendments?
Well, we don't officially know yet, we just have some ideas. That's why we're gonna have the zoning board look at it. We'll present a report to them that we'll put together over the next month, but the business, potential business is in the R1JJ zone, so I think what we'll be looking at potentially, which seems like the best route, is a potential amendment or addition to a conditional use in an R1JJ zone. But I can't speak specifically because we haven't put together the report yet.
So planning and zoning will give us the specifics.
Understood.
We have the option to say yay, nay, or make changes, or recommend changes with that.
We just presented to economic development some ideas that we thought would be a good discussion, but we have to formally put together the report. That report will be presented to the Planning and Zoning Board next month.
Does any of this relate to the number of required parking spaces?
No.
Good. Because parking minimums are going away in many, many cities, and I think that's something that we need to look at down the road too.
The applicant seems to have a couple options on parking. It's mostly a use challenge.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes.
Do we have any other comments concerning the text change review? All right, I have a motion, a second. Comments have been closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Ayes have it.
And the last thing I have, we've kind of tinkered with the dumpster ordinance over the last couple of years. And we've kind of had several requests to look at it again. Staff members and I, we have a couple ideas on what we think would be some options, but I thought it would probably be best to turn it over to a subcommittee of council to meet and discuss. That way, you all can decide based on information that we present to you all and information that, and thoughts that you all might have on what you all think is best in terms of our dumpster ordinance, especially as it relates to long-term rehabs and the amount of time that you feel is necessary for someone to be able to pull a dumpster permit. So, Mayor, I'd like to ask if there's any council members that would, up to 3 that would like to serve on that committee. We can schedule a time here in the next month or so to begin that discussion.
I agree that we should put together a quick committee to help determine this. I don't want to sit around too long and make this a 6-month committee. Doesn't need that much review. I'd like Mr. Baszler, Mr. Volter, and anybody else who would like to be on that council to speak now or forever hold your peace. But I know both of you folks have had concerns about that in the past, so I'd like to hear your opinions in that committee. But anybody else who'd like to be on that council is more than welcome to be.
get a moment to think about that. I wasn't really privy to this information, and I'd have to.
Nor was I, man, here we are.
That's fine, but I have 2 jobs. This is my 3rd job, so I'm also looking to be on the park board, and
All
I
right,
have to look at my schedule before I can commit to anything.
that's fine. So the next week, has enough time, Scott?
Sure.
If need be, I'll do it. If no one else wants to.
So we at least have 3 folks that are considering it.
Yeah, and it could be up to 3, I mean,
Well,
if
it
you all don't
doesn't
have time, and Jeff and I can just get
I'll agree
together.
to it, sure. I mean,
What we'll do is we'll just bring something back to you all formally.
Right.
Obviously, the more we have, the more opinions we get, but it's not too complex of an issue. I just want to make sure that we're doing what it is you all want. We don't waste time bringing you something that you may not want, so. I'll shoot out an email to all 3, and if schedule works, however many can make it.
Shoot out to all 6 and anybody who wants to join.
No, we don't want to do that.
All right, thanks, Attorney.
We have a quorum. I'll start with those 3, and if we can get something on the books, we can. If not, Jeff and I can be.
That's fine.
And if anybody has any questions, that's it for my report, Mayor.
Can you give an update on the Urban Terrace project?
They're on schedule to complete sometime in the middle of December as was initially scheduled. So I think they've mostly finished all the tie-ins. It's my hope that sometime this month they'll start on some of the sidewalk and curbing work that we're eagerly anticipating.
Now, Michael, catch me if I'm wrong here, but isn't there a certain degree, temperature that blacktop needs to be met at?
Yeah, I think the rule of thumb is 40 degrees. They'll keep the plants open as long as they can. They usually keep them open until about mid-December, but if the weather's really, starts to get cold and wet quick, they can shut them down sooner than that. But that was the concern we raised to the water company about the timing of the completion, but they wanted to move forward and chance it, so it's just gonna be a kind of fly by the seat of our pants,
Mhm.
see if we make it.
So we've had a conversation with SD1, the water company, concerning that, and also the temperatures concerning that.
Correct.
So if we catch a break in a couple days, or a couple prolonged days, we get those streets done, correct?
Correct, yeah. They'll wait till it's consistently at freezing before they shut the plants down. Again, it's usually middle of December. I've seen it close sooner than that.
Okay.
Well, what about the other phase of it, the sidewalks and curbs?
They should be fine on that, again, unless we just get some freak cold, consistent weather in November. From my understanding, the sidewalks and curbing is what's gonna happen sometime this month. So I think we'll be okay on that front. No guarantees, but I think we'll be fine.
Thank you.
Michael, I asked you this question in your offices today, and you told me 40 degrees, and you told me that the blacktop will be, companies will be shutting down the 1st of December. There's no way in God's creation you're gonna be able to blacktop that street this year. And the problem I have is them citizens up there that live on the top of that hill deserve better, because when we start getting snow and they start trying to plow that street, it's gonna tear up our equipment, it's gonna tear up the stuff they got. This water department has made a fiasco out of the city of Dayton.
Let's hope the timing's good and the weather stays somewhat warm.
But what if it's not good?
That's,
We have a recourse. When we tear our plows up, our people are having problems going up and down that hill, and we have our citizens have problems. I don't want a citizen come back here and start complaining to us because it's our fault.
I guess you gotta weigh the good and the bad. You know, the bad obviously is the street may not get attended to. The good is that our water issues up there at Urban Terrace will be much improved because of the work that's being done. So, I mean, I understand that, but, sometimes we're at their mercy. I mean, Bill's right, we're at, all the utility companies, sometimes we're at their mercy. They pretty much operate on their schedule, not on ours. I don't know what you do about that, but I think it's a good thing that we're getting that done, and we're getting it done for a reasonable cost to the city. so.
Very reasonable cost to the city, isn't it?
Well, the water company issue is not costing us
Not anything,
anything.
Well, that's very reasonable.
yeah, but the other issue is, but
Tom, is there any recourse, I mean, to Mr. Burns' point, is there any recourse that if we total a plow that hits something like a water main or something like that, is there any recourse that we could have as a city against SD1 or the water company for not completing these projects in a timely manner?
It'd be measured under a reasonably prudent person of whether they could have completed it in a timely manner. If something like tomorrow, the weather turns and it's below 30 degrees from now till spring, then obviously they couldn't have got the work done and they did everything reasonably prudent. They can't, they're not gonna be responsible for the acts of God, you know, anything that's freak like that. But if, they're expecting to timely complete, if they timely complete it and they do not, then they may have some liability to the city for damages the city receives in that hypothetical for injuries to snowplow, you know, things of that nature.
I
So
believe
possibly.
I believe most of the plates are gone because the hookups have been done. And that's the biggest issue, is the plates, when you're talking about a snowplow. I've been on one and you hit those plates and it'll take your teeth out. So as long as the plates are gone for the most part, then it's just an uneven
Rough.
surface, which, God, we had that before up there.
Yeah, you gotta navigate around the manholes, those are the only things that'll really stick up.
Yep.
But the crew's pretty good on remembering where those are and.
That street's like a war zone right now. Don't say it's pretty good, it's like a war zone. I go up and down that street once a day. This lady over here, she probably goes up and down that street. How long have they put us off? This project was supposed to be done last year. And they put us off and put us off and put us off. As far as I'm concerned, ladies and gentlemen, the water department hasn't done their job.
Any other comments concerning Mr. Given's report? Anything else to report, sir?
That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Edge,
Nothing to report.
floor was yours. Move along to the department head reports. We'll start tonight this evening with Chief Atkins for the fire chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Go ahead, my report. I don't have too much extra to add on to it. As soon as the water district is done with the hydrants, we will be out winterizing them, making sure they're all dry, pumping them. You'll see us start to mark them with some fluorescent tape, color coding them based on the amount of water that we can get out of them. So we'll make sure to let the cities know when we do that so they can post something on the webpage that way, because I think sometimes they'll stir up some water. People get some dirty water coming through their pipes. So once we start that, we'll make sure to let everybody know. Beyond that, I don't have too much to report.
Any questions for Chief Atkins? I appreciate all your work with the children this past month. You guys are incredible asset to the community. Thanks for your work.
Thank you, sir. I'll pass it on.
Sergeant Marksberry,
Yes, sir.
I believe you'll be filling in for Chief Hatfield, who's out for training this week, correct?
That's correct.
Well, you got the floor, sir.
Nothing to report. He'll update any information that I gave you in the packets. He'll update that on his return.
Does anybody have any questions for Sergeant Marksberry?
Sergeant Marksberry, could you pass on to the rest of the staff and Chief Hatfield that the park on Dayton Pike, so-called park on Dayton Pike where they got that parking lot now, has become a haven for unscrupulous activities according to the neighbors up there. Cars are going in there and using it for whatever they want to use it for, and I don't want it to see it turn out to be for activities it shouldn't be. It's supposed to be a park for our citizens and not for people who want to go up there and park in their cars and do whatever they want to do. So if you could let the guys know to check out there every once in a while, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Do you have a rough time frames that this might be occurring? The only reason why I ask is I know myself and the third shift officer will pull up there and park probably at least once per shift for a certain amount of time frame.
I just get phone calls on my phone at night, so, you know, I'm not gonna tell you it's at 7 o'clock. It's usually at night, so
Okay,
have the night guys check it out.
okay, will do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Marksberry? You're good, Gil. Have a good night, bud.
Hey, thanks, appreciate it.
Yes, sir, we appreciate you. Mr. Yoder, will you please bring your report for the economic development?
Thank you, sir.
That's fine. There. Oh,
Economic development report, starting off with Main Street. We had our last Dayton Flea in October. We kind of evaluated at the Main Street meeting. It didn't really take off as well as we should. One thing we had hoped was the coffee shop would be open earlier and get some of that business in Waffle when Wex was there, and Waffles and Wex closed down and the coffee shop isn't open. So at our Main Street meeting this month, we put together a committee on the Main Street board and looking at how to make it better for next year. And talking to Tammy, she does a great job when we do like Fall Fest and stuff like that, bringing vendors there. So we're gonna do a bit more on that. Trunk or treat was great, really was. I'm gonna tell you what, the weather at 2 o'clock, the rain, the cold, I was afraid of a washout, but I committed that I was gonna be there, and I was afraid that it might just be me and Tammy there. We had 8 cars show up, open their trunks. We had one resident, lived across the street, brought out a cotton candy machine and made cotton candy for the kids. It was amazing. So in spite of the wind and the cold, we had 8 trunks there handing out the candy. I thought it was great. Joe, I saw you there. Thank you for that photo. We did it for Bob Slusher, for a board member who really liked it, this thing. I think it really was. It's a great event. And let me say again, the guy Alex, who made the cotton candy, that was the coolest thing. And he had a lot of happy kids, so it was good. Following up some other things, the former Waffles and Wex should reopen this month as a new restaurant. I'm gonna let the new proprietor make the announcement on what, but his son, Louis, has some issues with the grease trap, in that there was never one in the building. So putting one of those in there, so he hopes to have that done by the end of the month, so that should be good. Ketchum Flooring, they painted their front facade over the summer. They've been operating in the city for better part of a year now, mainly out of the garage behind their building. I think it's 604. They're just finishing up their showroom. I went in there today. They're just putting the flooring down, getting that done, all ready to go. I would expect probably within the next month, we will have ribbon cutting for their showroom, which will be good. So really that 600 block is going to get filled up. We still have about 3 spaces for rent, 1 suitable for a restaurant, 526 that could be a food business, and 519 that could be for professional office. So if anyone knows anyone looking for some space, we still have a few spaces available, but things are filling up. Wanted to add on here, it's not quite Main Street. We did move the bus stop from the corner of, over here, 6 and Walnut, about a couple hundred feet in front of the property that we have on the 100 block of O'Fallon. The idea was to help create some parking spaces for Avenue Pharmacy for the ramp, so people could park there. Right now, we're not putting any more signage there. We're just gonna see how it goes. It's kind of been our attitude, seeing how things go, but we realized we wanted to have people to be able to park and then use the use the ramp up there for people, lower mobility who can't handle the stairs. So working with them, we're gonna keep an eye on that, and whether we do anything else to change that in the future, but I think we'll be okay. we might make it a 30-minute, but I think our attitude is to watch it for a while, see the problems develop, and work on it from there. The bar, there will be a bar meeting on November 12th at Hometown Heroes. I think one thing that we did last month, I talked about, put together, we're gonna create historic preservation awards for the city of Dayton. Bellevue, Newport, Covington, and Fort Thomas do this. So our bar has put a committee together to do that. So we'll be having some historic preservation award in May. I hope you follow their Instagram and Facebook page. There's a lot of great photos of houses and stuff and buildings in the area, so they're doing really great. They also have the articles in the community news. Just an update on the grants people want to know. The SRTS TAP grant, that's Dayton Pike and 6th Avenue. Our grant, ROA, right-of-way phase is wrapping up. I think Tom, you guys have given the last title report on that. We got a timeline working with the state of getting approved, looking at our timeline. We would expect probably sometime around the 1st of March into February to put that out to bid, providing KYTC moves in somewhat of a timely manner, but I've already been talking to them and talking to others. We're really going to try everything we can to push that out so we can put it out to bid this week. Time to do that. Any other questions?
I just had a quick question about the process of moving a bus stop. Like, is that something that you go through Tank?
Yes.
And then,
So I've been working with Tank for a couple of months on this. There was a bit of a delay, and Frank Laskowski, who's the person in charge of that, had a baby. So that delayed us about 6 weeks. But yeah, talk to Tank, talk with them about, we can actually decide as a city where we want bus stops, but you do want to work with Tank to make sure that you have enough space for the bus stop and those type of things. And also work with them on planning when we were going to move it. So if you kind of watched it, all of a sudden a bench and a pole appeared there for no apparent reason. And then a few days, we told the Tank bus drivers that it would be changing. So they kind of went through and knew that. And then one morning we went and moved the signs. So
I guess the only concern I had with like not having gone through council or any sort of public knowledge of it, bus station locations or bus stop locations often affect occupancies for businesses as well, like whether they're within 100 feet of a bus stop. So I was just wondering if in the future, like if we plan to eliminate or add or move, that it be brought up to the public so they could at least speak on behalf of the access to the bus stop. I have no problem with where it is or the move, but
it was 100 feet. Yeah, I agree with you. It was 100 feet. I think we have, since I know we used to sit on the stoop of the old Smitty's waiting for the bus, but now that we have a ramp there, wasn't really an option. So,
is there a plan to put a shelter over that bench, or is it just going to be a...
We do have some money for doing shelters through a TAP grant I got from earlier this year, that we could have some money to do that. We do have a shelter less than a block away there. So we have some money for benches and stuff like that. And we had, there was a bench we had, it used to be out at the War Memorial where the bricks were, and it was up at the city garage. So I like to go up to city garages to see what they have out back. And I found it there, and we painted it up, and it's ready to go. So I will say, if I looked at putting another shelter in, I probably wouldn't put one within the same block of one we already have shelters on. So, but, you know, we could do that if we felt there was enough demand for that. But I think we have 2 shelters in town, one there and one in front of Hansman's. So, personally, what I'd like to see is one at the turnaround in the industrial park, and then one somewhere in the middle. So, but
thank you.
All right.
You may have any other questions for Mr. Yoder?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Have a good evening. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Lyles with your report for code enforcement.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, good evening. You all have my report, just a little summary. There were
58 total letters issued for the month of October, with 48 of those being violation letters and 12 of those being citations. And for the month of October, closed 24 cases. That's pretty much all I have. Does anybody have any questions, concerns? I
Fantastic.
just tried to throw up a little kudos for the chief of police. He's not here tonight, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a little interaction with the principal of Lincoln Elementary. There was a B105, and I guess with the Den Schoolhouse, there was a little contest, and Principal Lincoln won, or I'm sorry, Principal Dragon won, and she was made up at B105 as a dragon to go back and surprise the students. When we met them at the Dayton City line and escorted them to Lincoln Elementary, which we got some positive feedback on B105, and I just thought any kind of positive action is good. So I just wanted to give him some kudos, even though he's not here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Correspondence.
No, sir.
No correspondence from Ms. Donna. Do we have any petitions this evening? No petitions. Unfinished business. Unfinished business from anyone? All right. New business.
Yes, Mayor, at this time, I'd like to recommend a motion that as of January 1, 2020, we suspend all CCAP procedures except for the rental abatements. This was a 3-year program where we're in its 4th year right now. At present, we've given in excess of over $200,000 out. And by the time we are committed with our next 3 years for rental abatements, it will be over $250,000. I know this is a sticky thing with everybody, but I'm making a motion that we suspend the CCAP program as of January 1, 2020.
Except for existing contracts?
Please?
Except for existing contracts?
Yes, whatever we're committed to, whatever we're committed to, we must, let me reemphasize, we must honor our commitments, but any future ones, we should curtail.
Mr. Burns has made a motion that we remove all CCAP funding except for rental abatements, sir?
Yes.
Moving forward from January 1st, 2020, does Mr. Burns have a second for his motion? Going once?
I just want to make a comment. I figured this was going to happen, and it doesn't bother me, but I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that the mayor sent you all an email concerning that we're going to be approximately $39,000 short in funding. I think it's going to be more, upwards of $60,000, so we have to start thinking about what we're going to do. We can't keep spending this money because it's not there. I was told we have $2 million in surplus, and ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this council for a few years now, and I don't know where $2 million surplus is coming from. So I don't care, I just want you to get prepared to make some decisions.
Mr. Burns' motion, does anyone like to make a second for his motion?
I agree with Bill in a couple of points on this. And Bill, we talked on this before. This is a finite fund. It's not being refunded at this point. Most of the money came in from the marina sale. And yeah, we do have to be careful with it, because it's not like taxes where it gets re-energized every year. On the other hand, it's an ROI issue. This is money that we're spending. What is the ROI on that? What is the return on investment? Is it quality of life? Is it business taxes coming in, payroll taxes, etc.? If there was any way to track that, I mean, we've got 7 or 8
buildings that were empty before the CCAP that now have businesses in them. Now, most of them are owner-run businesses, so the payroll taxes aren't that high, but still, what is the ROI on this? And if we're ever gonna get to a point where we do consider doing away with the CCAP, we need to take that into consideration. I'd also like to see with the Economic Development Fund, and I'll reiterate, I've said it many times, how it is used for things other than CCAP. Demolition, things like that. There's $250,000 for capital improvement projects, which are ill-defined. I would like to see any property that the city sells, foreclosure property, surplus property, or anything else, I'd like to see those funds perhaps go into Economic Development Fund rather than into the general fund. Just something to consider down the road, because Bill, you're right that this is a finite amount of money, but right now this is working pretty good. We've had very few issues with it, and I love seeing all the businesses on our avenue. It really is a quality of life ROI on that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all the restaurants we have, we wouldn't have the flooring company, we wouldn't have the buzz in town. And we're gonna get about 900 new residents in the next year that are gonna be looking for places like that down in the apartments. So, yeah, I agree, let's be cautious with it and really take a look at where we're spending that money and if we can get any more money coming in.
Just on the same note that Joe's talking about, what we need to do is just what we did before, is have a committee sit and go over what our expenditures are right now in the CCAP program. Maybe it does need to be redefined and streamlined in terms of what it does, what it covers, and what the expenses are. But certainly, I don't agree with just doing away with it cold turkey. I mean, we've been pretty successful, like Joe said, bringing in new businesses like, the new coffee shop that just opened up not long ago. Those kinds of things. So,
Well, we kind of already redefined it a little bit anyway by eliminating the building, vacate
the
expenses.
facade.
We're just doing abatements and signage. So we've eliminated those big chunks
you
that
can
were.
even look at the percentages that you're paying, those kinds of things.
It's been, the program's changed every year that we've had it, and that was the intention, was to look at it every year. And it's been an evolving program as such. Just for clarification, a lot of what's driven the heavy investment over the last probably 2 years was the revamping of the structural improvement and facade, and that's probably other than just open storefronts, but we've actually seen the most return in terms of probably quality of life is what it is. Maybe some improved tax base values, but that's what's driven a lot of the expenses. Now, that program was only funded at, I believe, $30,000 for this fiscal year, and that was just to honor one application that had been prior approved. We just didn't have the funding for it because we capped out last year. So really, as it stands, the only two programs that are funded for the remainder of this fiscal year are the signage and rental abatement. And as to piggyback off of what we've changed, the rental abatement percentages, so that liability to the city has gone down every year as we've become more and more vested and more shops have opened. So again, it's something we can look at when we get into next budget season. It lasts as long as you all want to fund the particular programs, and the programs are dictated by what changes you all want to make on a year-to-year basis. But I wanted to clarify that right now, really, the only programs that are eligible for application right now are the signage and the rental abatement.
So right now, and we're talking about the City of Dayton Urban Renewal Fund is what we're referring to, the Economic Development Fund, correct?
That's where this money's coming from, correct?
Right. We've got an $801,000 balance in there. We could stop this at any time if there's a project or a need that comes up for economic development funds. Somebody comes in with a project proposal where the city has to throw in some money to make it viable, we can stop the CCAP at any time to do that. But right now, I don't see any other ideas for economic development in town.
Yeah, I've got nothing other to bring to you on.
So might as well put it to use.
Yeah. Now, I do want to clarify, Joe and I have this argument all the time. I don't spend any economic development money that hasn't been approved by council to some degree. So this was the first year I moved demolition into that fund. All prior years, it's just come out of our day-to-day general fund. It's only $10,000 and we haven't torn down any property yet. The $250,000 that Councilman Neary suggests can be earmarked for anything should we choose to act on an incentive program, something outside the CCAP. But again, that's not something I would ever spend money on without coming to council first. So I just want to clarify that.
It's on the record now. It's not just a conversation. No, we're really fortunate to have, we dodged a bullet with the marina a couple of years ago, because that was an albatross. And with the developer buying it, giving us cash for it, and now turning it into, or, investing his own money in there, very few cities have that kind of an economic development fund balance. So yeah, we gotta be careful with it, because it's not being replenished, but come up with some ROI ideas that are better than CCAP.
Yeah, I don't know what the total exposure we have right now with contracts for rental abatement, but it's relatively minor in terms of what we had been spending the last couple of years on the structural facade. But that, as far as I know, right now, that we're not taking any more applications for that. It's unfunded for the rest of the fiscal year. It would be up to you all when we get to the next budget season, how the whole thing evolves from there.
So Michael, you said it's unfunded, so for both signage and for rental abatement?
No, just of the 3 programs within CCAP, the facade structural improvement, we've capped out funding for this
We
fiscal
haven't
year.
capped out rental abatement?
No.
Okay, so that's still funded.
Those are still fully funded. The signage and the rental abatement, we would still accept, review, approve, or deny applications on that. Right now, we're not accepting any applications for facade.
Michael and the mayor, one last comment I'll make is whoever sits on that committee for the economic development in this CCAP program, one of the things that disturbs me is that on your rental abatement, the monies that we pay out, we're paying our commitment. I understand this when I make this. The monies don't even go to the landlord, it goes to the business owner. So my question is, what happens in the 3rd year and they don't pay their landlord the monies they own for 6 months? I know that Tom's gonna tell me, Tom's gonna say, we've made our commitment, and I understand and respect that, but I think that's a loophole that it needs to be looked at and addressed.
Do we have any other, Mr. Burns, we'll give it a third chance here, has made a motion to remove the CCAP as of January 1st, 2020 without, except for rental abatement. Does he have a second? With no other comments, we're going to go ahead and close that motion, sir.
It's fine.
Do we have any other new business?
One thing I forgot to mention under my report, we have a planning and zoning meeting at this location tomorrow at 7 o'clock. The board will be reviewing the draft of the comprehensive plan. They'll have the opportunity to bring back suggestions, recommendations to you all. What I'd like to do after they meet, they may meet more than once, it just depends on how much we can get through tomorrow. But when they finish their review, I'd like to take it to a subcommittee of council to take into account their recommendations, and then from there we can present it to the full council, who will have the opportunity for final comment, final input, final changes, and adoption. So we could be still several months out. It just depends on how quickly we get through the planning and zoning phase, but that will be tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
I have one item, sir. Well, multiple, but I'll just mention one. As I said, these apartments are coming online, 900 people. I look online at the Facebook comments and some things that people have said to me face to face. Everybody's worried about the traffic that this is going to generate. The people in Bellevue are upset about the traffic that it's going to create. I agree. I drive it every day. I come through between 7 and 7:30 in the morning, and I come home between 5:30 and 6 at night, and the traffic through Bellevue is bad.
We've talked about different accesses to Manhattan Boulevard in the past. It's up to the developer to do that. But I really think, let's face it, next year is an election year for council, all right? Both here and in Bellevue. A major topic is going to be traffic. Valid topic. I sit in it. I think we need to sit down with Bellevue, a couple of council members, not just administration. I know you guys talk a lot about this and everything. But a couple of council members in a committee on traffic. They've got the focus on pedestrian safety, which with additional traffic is an issue. KYTC has not been I don't think we're getting as much attention individually as we could combined. I don't know where OKI could come into play on that. There's some great ideas out there on how to address this traffic. We are to traffic. I mean, people who complain about traffic are, I can't complain about the people in front of me. I think we need to be proactive this winter before these apartments open up and arrange something with the staff and the council members from Bellevue and work together to address this, at least to allay the fears. I'd gladly do it, but I think it needs to be officially sanctioned by both cities.
OKI had an old study that was probably done maybe 8-9 years ago that actually looked at developing a loop to take traffic off of 6th Avenue. Bellevue was totally opposed to that.
I think we need to reopen those talks. I mean, we can't build an interstate along the river. That's not going to happen. We can't even keep Route 8 open out the river. You know, with the existing infrastructure that we have with Fairfield Avenue and with 6th Avenue, how much of a load is it going to be? I remember when they approved River Point, people were screaming bloody murder because, you know, we're going to put 150 more units up there and all the traffic. We don't notice the traffic. It may not be much of an impact because not everybody's going to be leaving at the same time.
They won't.
Not everybody's going to be leaving.
They won't.
But I think for the public's sake, we need to, as their elected officials and representatives, look into some options here. And get KYTC to pay some attention to us. That light down there, I'm ready to, ooh.
I'm not opposed to looking at it, Joe, and I agree we need to, but I will tell you this. I have no intentions of rolling over dead because of the traffic problems in Bellevue. I am not going to do it. And, you know, I'll be happy to work with anybody on any type of potential solutions. But, you know, for people in Bellevue to say, geez, well, stop all your development because you're creating traffic problems. I'm
Yeah, but it's
sorry.
creating
I'm not apologizing for our development.
I'm not asking that.
I agree. We need to look at it.
I have
For our
that problem.
citizens.
Yeah, I'm suffering from it.
And here's the other thing. There is this perception. You say you have a problem. I can drop my grandkids off at Lincoln Elementary at 7:30, and I can be, when I worked full-time, I could be at my office in Covington off of Scott Street before 8 o'clock. Now, maybe that's not good timing. I don't know, but I think it is. You know, it's all about perception, too.
Right.
You know, there are people that have lived here in town when we had 2 traffic lights, and for years you could go in 2 minutes or 1 minute, straight on through town. But, you know, traffic is a perception issue, too. And you look at people that live up in Mason, and you know from coming from Blue Ash, right?
How's that work out? Yeah, we got no traffic.
Those are monumentous traffic issues. And I think we are obligated to look at some solutions, and maybe there's some small things that we can do that can make a significant difference in the flow of traffic. But, you know, it is a perception issue. I think it's worse sometimes at rush hour coming back into town than it is leaving. But, you know, I mean, I could, like I said, 30 minutes, and that's dropping the kids off and going to Covington.
It's a fine line. In the discussions with KYTC, You know, their focus is moving traffic quickly. That's what they're supposed to do. We've got to balance that with pedestrian safety, quality of life, speed limits, the whole 9 yards.
You know, there are smart traffic lights now that they're using in Boone County, from OKI is looking at that basically can sense the flow and volume of traffic. And those lights operate off of that volume and flow, so that you're not having a light that just clicks off for 30 seconds and you get one end build up. So maybe something like that is something that we can talk to KYTC about, I don't know.
Well, does anybody else think that that would be beneficial to join with Bellevue on this issue?
Most certainly.
I think it's a Newport, Bellevue, Dayton conversation.
Absolutely.
And I'm certainly open to it. We've tried it in the past. The reason it hasn't gone very far in the past is nobody could agree on it. Everybody has something to give up and something to gain, and there was no one size fits all. But I'm certainly willing to have the conversation again. We've talked about it a lot internally, the mayor and I, and Bob, and always willing to talk. It's just with 3 different cities, and everybody's trying to accomplish different things, and some people are willing to bend on things, and others aren't willing to bend on others, and it had never matched up before. But
Well, I also look at this table up here in Bellevue's council meetings. The diehards that didn't want to change anything have been replaced by a lot of people who are saying, how can we solve this problem, to looking at other places. So yeah, there has been resistance in the past. I call it the Great Wall of O'Fallon. I think that wall is crumbling. Those people have the same ideas and concerns and everything else, and sit in the same traffic, and have the same pedestrian safety concerns, especially in their CBD.
It's a valid point.
And I don't think, we've been asking about the 6th and Berry light, and KYTC is like, you're just Dayton. If you had the Northern Kentucky, if you want to bring Newport into it, everybody screams about roundabouts. Those roundabouts in Newport are working great once you get used to them.
Yeah.
So it's that forward thinking is what I'm looking
Save
for.
when you drive one of them.
I think it's got to be all 3, because there's no Bellevue and Dayton getting together and figuring out a solution without Newport's involvement. And KYT is the other elephant in the room. Fort Thomas can't even get them to open up their road. It's a challenge, as you come to know, dealing with them. But I'm always willing to sit down and talk. We did it a couple of years ago. It just we got hung up on some things, but that was a couple of years ago, and new people are there. And I'm certainly.
Well, if either you or Mayor Baker, I don't know whose bailiwick it would be, ask the other mayors if they'd be open and willing to that, because it's a regional problem. It really is.
Why don't we get Jack to put that together? Would he be interested? I'm sure he'd be interested. Is that in his bandwidth?
He facilitated it last time, and then brought all 3 cities to the table. Yeah.
As Lord knows, Jack, he works 90 hours a week. If we can get him to help us put that back together again, I'd be more than interested in sitting down with other city leaders to see how we could fix their problems.
Yeah, and if they could get KYTC to come to the table with the 3 mayors.
And I think someone mentioned OKI. I think that's
OKI
is a
they certainly. I'll see what I can find out with them in terms of KYTC.
Michael, here's just a fun idea for you. If you can get the developer down there to put up on a speed list to put the overpass at Berry Street, that'll take some of that traffic off the avenue. Instead of everybody trying to turn down O'Fallon, if you have the overpass or have the drive over, they just come down the street and go down Berry Street and go to those apartments. So that could, huh? Well, I understand that, but they're not going to stop at O'Fallon. The traffic's going to stop at O'Fallon and turn down. But if you have the traffic, instead of going down Fallon, go down the avenue to see all our shops. You might
No, I totally agree.
you might tell the developer down there to put it on the front burner instead of the back burner.
I still think some of the issues with these new lights that have the sensors and turning arrows and those kinds of things to keep the traffic flowing could be, you know, a possible easy solution to help, you know, narrow that congestion. But those all cost money. I'm sure that the state of Kentucky on Route 8 is probably not willing to put that in their budget at this time, but who knows?
Well, I think if we can move forward on this as the river cities cooperating together to take care of Route 8 and the 471 traffic, you know, it's all of our problems, not just, and I don't want to see somebody down in Bellevue saying stop development in Dayton, or us complaining about First Fridays. We can make it work, but we need to make it work together. So if you guys come up with a plan with these other cities, I would be glad to cooperate with that. I wanted to remind everybody about the Young Marines this Saturday at 6th and Berry. We approved it last month. They're doing the fundraising down there at 6th and Berry. And has anybody heard any plans, Donna, for Veterans Day on Monday with the VFW?
They usually bring me up a schedule, but nothing's, Mr. Lucas has not brought anything up yet.
I think it's on Sunday, isn't it?
So we usually do on Sunday, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, when you do, could you pass it on?
Yeah, maybe I'll give him a call tomorrow.
Usually he brings it up before now, but
I'll make a note to give him a call.
maybe he slipped his mind. Any other new business? I do want to bring up a new business that the city will be recognizing both educators who we lost this week unexpectedly by honoring them with the flags at half-staff throughout the end of the week. So their families have been great members of our community for many, many years, raising our kids and teaching great values. So it's if you see them, keep them in your thoughts and make sure that they're appreciated and loved during this tough time for them. But we'll be definitely recognizing this week.
And also, Jay Brewer notified me that they're going to do Mr. Steidel's funeral here in Dayton at the Dayton High School gym. I think that's the plan. It'll be on Sunday. I don't know the time. We'll post that online. But there will be a lot of people in here on Sunday at some point. And in case anybody wants to attend, it will be here locally.
It's an honor.
On Stan Steidel Court.
Yep.
Any other new business? Do we have a reason for executive session?
No, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Edge. Everything else checked off on my sheet here. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn? So moved. Always by Mr. Fulcher. Do we have a second?
I will.